Okay, good morning, everybody. It is 7 o'clock, at least where I am. And what's up, Victor?
Hey man, how you doing?
Doing good. Just trying to get set up and stuff.
Cool, cool.
Hello, Varal. Hello, Juan. Um, but yeah, how you doing today, Victor?
Pretty good, pretty good. Let's see what I did today. Um,
Hey, Scott.
I did some homework today, and so there was that. That was probably my plan for the day. Was just do a little bit of homework and then hang out with or talk with my friends. So
Okay.
that's what I did today. What about you?
I went to work. I still work, and I go into work. So it's like I work in a manufacturing plant, and so
Hmm.
it's interesting because we're all spaced out, but we still have to work together.
Hmm.
Um, but that's basically all I did. And then do a little bit of thinking about this. But for all the people that are joining right now, my name is Jordan Tremaine, and this is my buddy Victor, and this is session 2 of Reality Chat, where we kind of just have a topic and kind of try to get a little deeper into something that I think oftentimes we don't because we're kind of concerned as people about being politically correct or sharing our ideas. What if they get accepted? What if they get rejected? That kind of thing. So, yeah, today's topic is productivity.
Hmm.
And I thought this was an interesting topic to talk about because of the current situation that we're in. And also, just in general, I think as life happens, especially for me, because I'm going to talk about myself because I'm talking right now.
Yeah.
Like being 20 something in this age, sometimes there's a lot of stuff going on, and there's a lot of choices you can make, and it's kind of like direct TV where you have like a million channels to watch, but like what do you watch, and you kind of don't end up watching anything.
Yeah.
I feel like that sometimes, but yeah, I wanted to kind of have a little chat about that. So Victor, what do you think about productivity? Grant?
Um, I thought about. I was thinking about it for a while. Like earlier this week, I'm like, what does it mean to be productive? Well, I mean, to put it simple, it means to produce, to make something.
Okay.
Um, but but then I started thinking about it. I can do a lot of different things, but I can still not feel productive, you know? So I think productivity just really means um, doing the necessary things to reach a goal or of some kind. I think that's
Okay.
kind of where I kind of fell off on it for the most part because um, like I can play video games, that's something. But do I feel very productive? Not so much. And or
Okay.
where I can do homework and that's me one step closer to reaching my goal. That's being productive.
Okay. For those of you
Yeah.
guys that don't know, Victor, correct me if I'm
Hmm.
wrong, but
Yeah.
Victor said homework because he's a master's student right now in a psychology program,
Yeah.
and
School psychology. Yeah.
that I think is one of the reasons we have such interesting conversations because he comes at it with a bunch of like very specific psychology knowledge I don't have, and then I'm kind of just in the air with me. But
Yeah.
it's interesting you're saying that sometimes, or maybe all the time,
Yeah.
productivity has this prerequisite of a goal. Like you can't be
Hmm.
productive unless you're trying to do something specific. It sounds like,
Hmm.
and then if your goals don't align with what you're doing, it can be very difficult to kind of justify the purpose for doing what you're doing if you set down like these goals, but you're doing this,
Hmm.
which that's very interesting because like self care, I would say is very high priority for me,
Hmm.
and in that mode, as long as I didn't overdo it, I would say some video games, if I were a video game player, would
Hmm.
be productive for me because it might be like a form of self care. But if you don't
Yeah.
consider that like a goal or something, maybe like how you consider it really defines if it's productive or not.
Yeah. Now, if I said something like, if I went on a hike today, then I feel like that would be productive. Just
Okay.
because that in my sense, that's self care for me, going,
Okay.
on some kind of adventure or something like that. Um, so as long as I think it's still aligning with my goal specifically of like whatever's going to get me to my next goal and something like that.
Okay. Do you would you mind sharing some like examples of goals you have?
Well, I mean, obviously, I want to finish school, so I mean, that's goal number one. Goal number two, it's I don't really have a set like I have to hit a set number of things, but I don't for myself, I don't like wasting time. I'm not someone that likes to sit around and do nothing all day. I like to take the time that I have and go with it.
Hmm.
And so what that means is that just like being able to go out and explore, find new things to do, find new things to see, um, be more be more knowledgeable about this about my surroundings rather than just kind of being at home and not really applying myself to anything.
Okay. And I think because we talked, I think briefly about this last week, maybe earlier this week, but I think that brings up an interesting concept of I think sometimes when we're trying to be productive, especially when we're kind of like compulsive productive, like we feel the need
Hmm.
to be productive to reach our goals. Because some people
Hmm.
set goals, but they're like, if I get them, I get them. If I don't, I don't.
Right.
But then there's some people who like have this itch, and they're like, oh my gosh, I'm not like reaching my goals. I need to work harder.
Hmm.
Um,
Right.
to that point, I think we were talking about productivity as kind of like a coping mechanism for dealing, or sometimes you um, kind of hide behind productivity in order to avoid other things.
Yeah, I think being feeling productive does take a lot of energy. So you're more focused on on achieving that goal, being doing something that's going to help you achieve that goal, rather than focusing on any distractions that you might have or anything that is pertaining to something else that's in the back of in your back of your mind that you don't necessarily want to deal with.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Okay, so like
yeah.
in order to be really productive, it requires a lot of focus. So it's kind of
Hmm.
like this tool you can use to just blot other things out.
Hmm. It can be. I think it can be used for that too sometimes.
Huh. Well, wait.
Yeah.
So was I misunderstanding what you just said?
No, 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 you had it right. But I think it goes further than that. I think that in order for you to like be productive, it does require energy. And I guess the best way you can kind of explain it would be like sweeping things under the rug is
Okay.
that, um, say you're cleaning your house, but you still have a pile of stuff under the rug. You're still gonna be productive cleaning everything around the house, but you're still gonna have whatever's under that rug still there at the end of the day.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Okay, that's making
Hmm.
me think like because I think some coping strategies, and I'm not saying that productivity is a bad thing to do.
Right.
I like productivity, but I think it's like a tool. It's something you can use for good things, and it's also something you can use for other things like avoiding things. And the way that I'm kind of bringing it up right now is a coping strategy or like a way
Hmm.
to deal with what's going on around you. And you're talking about sweeping it under the rug. It seems kind of like you can possibly use productivity as a form of escapism because it like forces your
Hmm.
focus on what you're doing,
Right. So yes, you're avoiding what any daunting task that you need to take care of.
which that's
Yeah.
really interesting because
Hmm.
if you're using it to avoid, but the only reason productivity happens is because it's based on your goals, then it's
Hmm.
kind of like I would feel what you're doing is purposely manipulating the priority of your goals in order to push something higher so you don't have to deal with this. And
Hmm.
of course, then
Yeah.
you're productive here when you should be here and you just got your priorities wrong.
Yeah, I can see that. I can definitely see like you have in your mind you have a set number of goals. Like I have this goal, I have to this goal, I have this goal.
Hmm.
But when there's something that you don't want to deal with, you might prioritize other things. Kind of like I'll take for example something that I used to do was um, um, I would have a project due the following day, but rather than me doing the project, I would be like, oh look, I have to clean my room.
I
That's me being
definitely, yeah.
productive, definitely like me being productive and cleaning my room. I'm gonna feel good about cleaning my room, but I still have this other task that I need to take care of, and if I don't take care of it, it's gonna suck.
Yeah, that's very interesting because when I was in college,
Yeah.
I used to clean my room when I was really stressed out about school.
Hmm.
Um, and I think there you can do that in a way where it's not healthy because it's avoiding.
Hmm.
But sometimes I would feel like either number one, my room being dirty was bothering me, and it was like a distraction, so I needed to clean it so I could focus on school. But
Mm-hmm.
also another part of me felt like if I just started the engine of productivity, once it
Mm-hmm.
got running enough and warmed up by cleaning the room, then I can use it to do the work that is daunting.
Right. And I think that that also holds a lot of weight too, just because I've noticed that, I mean, in my past too, like I've done where I would work, 8 to 5, and then I would have to go straight to the gym. Otherwise, if I get home, I would settle. I'd already cool down. I already lost the momentum of being productive. So I wouldn't go to the gym. But rather, if I just went to the gym right after, then I would already have that motion set, and I would already be ready to go, and I'd want to continue going.
I definitely get that. There's like
Hmm.
I don't know why my dad used to tell me this, because like
Yeah.
he was not a small business owner, but he'd
Right.
always be like, never feed your employees lunch. Um, and he always had this idea, like if you had people work in the morning and then you fed them in the afternoon, they'd be way lazier,
Okay.
because they had this time to like sit around and do nothing. Um, and I have no idea where that term came from, but yeah, I think there is a kind of a value, if you look at it that way, to starting your engine and starting in first gear, then moving to second gear, moving to third gear,
Hmm.
and if you're in third gear, go do another third gear activity. Don't stop and let your engine cool down, and then start
Hmm.
it back up and go in third gear,
Hmm.
with the like coming home and then going to the gym thing.
Right. I mean, even even just in regular exercise, like where you do interval training, it's a lot harder for you to like when your heart rate's down and you try to go back up. It's a lot harder than if you're just at a constant, high rate.
Yeah.
And so,
Okay. So yeah, I mean, like we've been talking for like what 10 minutes, all, and we already
mhm.
kind of went through a lot of different kind of angles on productivity.
Yeah, definitely.
It's something that I think when you don't take time to look at a concept, I think it tends to be very like one-sided, and you're like,
Right.
oh yeah, 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 this, don't worry about it. But like when you look into
Hmm.
something like this could be something you use to avoid doing something important. Productivity is something you can use to help you prioritize your goals.
Hmm.
Often I've noticed in terms of like when you don't do the thing you should be doing. Uh, when I want to be productive in something else, but in the back of my mind, I know that I should be doing something else.
Hmm.
Sometimes that doesn't happen until I'm avoiding the thing I should be doing. And so that kind of me trying to be productive to avoid can help me understand what's actually important.
Hmm.
In case I'm like, okay, I got 10 things to do, and I'm like, let me do this thing, let me do this thing. And I can, after I do a couple of things, I notice that this thing is way in the back and I never want to move it up. Like, maybe that's the
Hmm.
thing I should be working on.
Right. Yeah, I think that's it's funny that you say that because I think for myself, I have to get the wheel running. So in the morning, like I guess I can tell you about my morning. Usually in the morning, I'll make a cup of tea and then I'll go out and read. Um, Read for pleasure, just because that's something that I like doing for myself. And then I feel accomplished when I finish a chapter. I usually read about one chapter a day, and then once I finish a chapter, I'm like, all right, so now let's go ahead and get into like let's do some homework or let's do whatever it is I have to do for the rest of the day. So like I think it's for in a way you're setting those short term goals to feel better about yourself. So I think okay, so let's back up a little bit. When you set short term goals, um, and which are somewhat of a challenge. It's a little challenging, but you're able to achieve them. You feel better about yourself, right?
Yeah.
So in a sense, that's raising your self esteem. That's raising your confidence to continue on with the day and continue being productive. So by doing these setting these like little short term goals, you're eventually going to feel better about yourself. You're going to feel great. You're having the sense of productivity in your mind, and you
Mm-hmm.
just want to and you like that feeling. We like feeling like we're doing something there with our lives, with ourselves, and so you're going to continue having this motion, and it's like an ongoing like a steam engine. It's just going to keep going and going.
Yeah. Yeah. Uh,
Hmm.
that I think that's a very good model of productivity,
Hmm.
where there are certain tasks that are easier and harder, but that doesn't mean that you have to do only hard tasks, or you have to only do easy tasks. But sometimes, like with running, like sometimes
Hmm.
you need to stretch before you run.
Right.
And so sometimes like it may not be very like the exact prerequisite activity is stretching to running, like, but maybe it is important sometimes when you really need to be very like hyper productive to do the warm up thing, to do the warm up ritual. Like in the morning, I have this like paragraph that I write out the same verbatim every morning, and
Hmm.
it's like affirmations, and then I have a cup of tea and I do some stretches, and then I move on with my day. And there's a couple of reasons I do that. Um, and the main reason I drink tea is because it's delicious, and stretching because I just love stretching. But the affirmations thing, um, I think it's good to start your day thinking positive thoughts, but I also like it takes me some focus to like sit and write and remember whatever it is, even though I do the same thing every day. It takes me a little bit of effort to actually remember because I only do it once a day. And I
Right.
can kind of gauge where I'm at by how hard it is to write that paragraph. Because
Hmm.
sometimes my mind is all over the place and I can't remember, or I'm stressed out about something, and it's or I'm distracted and it's taking me a long time. I always start at the top, like here's the date, here's the time that I started, and then I write the thing out, and then I look at the time that I finished, and I see like, oh, this is taking me time. Like, okay, maybe I need to like and like center myself a little bit or whatever. Like just the act of doing that.
Yeah, yeah. So I think like it's I think we're definitely seeing a lot of commonalities between you and me in terms of like us having this kind of routine that we follow before we kind of get through our day and do the things that we need to do. And I think that's are you familiar with? I think we might have talked about this before, but are you familiar with like the concept of chaos and order?
Um, I think that concept is in a lot of places, so I'm going to ask
Hmm.
you where you're getting it from specifically.
Okay, so when I think of the concept of chaos and order is just everything in our lives. Our whole lives is derived based off, some kind of order that we're having in our lives and some kind of chaos that we might have.
Okay.
So um, chaos can be like, those mishaps that you have. Maybe your car is unreliable. Um, Maybe you have a flat tire one day. uh, Sometimes you're not sure if you're going to make pay your bills this month or not. That's chaos, having that insecure, those instabilities in your life that are kind of like um, that provide some kind of resistance for you to progress further into wherever it is you're trying to get go in your life.
Hmm.
Whether they're physical, emotional, mental, and maybe academically. There are barriers in our lives that are prevalent in order for us to succeed. Now there's order, the things that help us in our life, the things that are considered the stabilities in our life. Knowing that that I'm gonna go to bed and I'm gonna wake up in the morning. That's me without having any fear of like someone breaking in or anything like that, or like I'm not gonna wake up to a nuclear bomb on the other side of the street. That's order, being able to just feel comfortable and feeling safe. So our whole life is built off this sort of balance between the chaos and order. Is that there's going to be um, in our lives we're going to have stability, but we're also going to have instability, and there needs to be a perfect balance between the two. Otherwise, we're not going to be able to feel efficient in our lives. Um, Too much chaos, and um, you're going to feel very overwhelmed. You're going to feel very distraught in everything that you do. You're going to feel very like you can't function. You're not productive. You're not gonna do anything. It's just you feel like everything's kind of caving in on you. You feel anxiety, you feel depression, you feel all these other emotions. Now, on the flip side, you have too much order. Yeah, you don't have to worry about anything. You feel very comfortable in the space you're in, the part you're in right now. And too much of a good thing can also be bad, because if you're too comfortable, you're not growing, you're not moving, you're not progressing, you're not doing anything with your life. It's very like you're very stagnant. Everything's stable. Nothing. There's nothing coming in that's gonna put a resistance on your life, that for you to overcome it and become a better person, in the sense of like you're growing. And that's the key where we need to be able to find a balance between the two, in order for us to be productive. I feel like we're actually getting somewhere. Feeling we have to have this challenge between the two.
Okay.
Yeah,
Somebody is dropping some knowledge over here. I wanted
just a
to
little bit.
I want to take this a second to say hello to everybody that joined. And I saw Golden Boy out 26. He asked a question a little while ago. I didn't want to ignore
Yeah,
him. He was
yeah.
asking what books you read. You're talking about your morning routine. What's some books do you read?
Right now I'm reading a book on investments just because I'm into like the whole stock market and
Oh,
all
me
that
too. I
fun
just
stuff.
bought an investment textbook.
Oh,
Bam.
nice. There you go. We'll talk later about that.
Okay.
Yes. So I read a lot of that. I also read a lot of like I read a lot of psychology books, just a lot of socioeconomic books. I like reading a lot of culture, things
Right.
like that sort.
Okay.
Yeah.
Um, and then I had a comment or I don't know, question, something, some response to
Yeah.
what you were saying about the chaos and order thing,
Right.
because I heard once, and this has always bothered me because there's this idea that people accept things because they like them, not
Hmm.
because they're true. And so every time I like something a lot, I'm always like, oh my gosh, how can I figure out whether this is true? Because I know I'm gonna like it whether or not it's true.
Hmm.
But I like this a lot. And the phrase is life has no cruise control. And there's I was like listening to a lecture, and the explanation of this phrase was like there's a gas pedal, and you can press it and move forward, or you can let
Hmm.
go of it. And if you've been accelerating and then you let go of the gas pedal, for a while, it may seem like you're not losing, you're not going slower. You may end up still going faster because maybe you were like accelerating a lot. But if you
Hmm.
keep not pressing the gas pedal, you're going to start slowing.
Hmm.
And it's sometimes it's hard to catch until it's too late, until you're like already losing momentum.
Yeah.
But I think there's sometimes a misconception that like when you have too much order in your life, I think it puts you in this place called the comfort zone, and it not only is bad because it's you're not being challenged and you're not progressing and you're not, I guess, being productive or whatever, but you're also learning to be in the comfort zone and to be risk adverse, and it makes it harder
Hmm.
to leave there. Like in your bed, if you wake
Hmm.
up when the alarm gets hits and then you get out of bed, it's much easier than if you wake up and stay in your bed for like 30 seconds, because now you're awake
Hmm.
and warm and you understand that you're comfortable in there. Like the longer you stay in your bed, the longer
Hmm.
you're going to stay in your bed. So
Right.
I just thought that was an interesting thought to add.
Right. I think that kind of goes hand in hand with um, like with homeostasis. We have this level of like, here's my perfect balance, and we like being in a perfect balance, where we're at. And as if we get too comfortable, our homeostasis will kind of shift over to that area, and we're gonna be eventually get to this point where we're just gonna be here, and we're gonna be comfortable being in this side of the spectrum, you know. Um, and the same holds true for the other side too. You can be too uncomfortable, and you won't feel like you're progressing. Now, I think this kind of like even like with exercise too, like um, say you um, say you haven't exercised in I don't know, like in years, your homeostasis of the balance of between being physically active and not active at all is going to shift, and you're gonna feel more comfortable being not active than if you were to be active. And for you to start up and make that shift back to somewhere in the center, it's going to be a lot harder than if you initially just kept it in the center to begin with.
Yeah, and I think that's to keep with the exercise
Yeah.
metaphor, the coming home from work rather than
Hmm.
going straight to the gym
Hmm.
thing you were talking about earlier. And I want to hit on that because as usual, I think it's more complex than that. But like homeostasis, I think is like your default setting. Everybody has a default setting, and it's at some point on the scale at any given moment. And let's
Hmm.
say here is like the extreme of productivity and going the extra mile, and here's like the extreme of laziness.
Yeah.
I feel like from my personal experience, this is totally anecdotal.
Yeah.
If at some point in your life, you were over here, your homeostasis arrow was over here, and then it kind of like fell back. It's easier to get back over there because like me growing up, I did like usually 2 sports at the same time from the time I was like 6 until the time I was like 18. And then I started riding my bike 40 miles a day to get to college because I had a car accident. And so I was doing like all this exercise. And now I can like not exercise for 6 months. And then I'll notice that I lose my six pack or something like that. And then I'll be like, oh no, I lost my six pack. And I'll do like 50 sit-ups and it'll come back. And
Yeah.
I'm not saying that to brag at all, but I feel like there's your homeostasis right now, but then there's also kind of like the life average of where you have spent your experience. And it's easier to kind of like travel well-worn paths than it is to go into uncharted territory.
Right. Because again, we're kind of wired to feel we want that stability. We want that,
Yeah.
something to make us feel comfortable that we're not gonna anything that happens, it's gonna be like,
Oh, hey, Liz.
yeah, hey. And then so what we do, we're just gonna feel like if it's becomes a challenge, we also maybe you know what? Now I think about it, it can feel like a challenge, and we don't want to feel like we're failing from that
Oh,
challenge.
yeah. Dude, I hate failing. It's the
Yeah,
worst.
exactly. Who wants to lose? And
Dude,
so that might be a thing. You want to ensure your victory as much as possible. So you're not gonna want to you're not gonna want to try something you're gonna fail at.
or that you don't know that you will succeed at.
Correct.
Because sometimes there's not the knowledge of failure. Like I'm definitely not going to do well, but there's the like I don't know what's going to happen. Like for instance, the first time I changed my oil, I was literally terrified I was going to break my car. And changing oil is so easy. Like if you can like make a pitcher of Gatorade, then or change a fish tank, it's like the same I would say changing a fish tank is harder because it might involve glass. But it's so easy, but like I
Yeah.
couldn't find any like straightforward directions with a video for my exact model of car. So the first time
Right.
I was like asking everybody and all this stuff because I was afraid to fail. And I think sometimes when we perceive the stakes to be very high, our I guess our desire to be risk adverse goes up because we feel like we could be losing more.
And I think it kind of goes back to that whole thing that we mentioned earlier was that like if we have these short-term goals, we're going to feel better about ourselves, and if we feel better about ourselves, we're going to have more confidence.
Mm-hmm.
So let's say, for example, I in school I've done presentations in high school. I've done some in undergrad too, right? And my past experience between all those, like I've done fairly well in presentations. So if I do another presentation in the future, I'm going to feel confident that I can in my ability to do a presentation.
Mm-hmm.
So that's going to raise my level of self confidence. So so if I decide to do any presentations later on, I don't have this feeling that I'm going to fail at it. I'm not going to do well. I'm not going to succeed. And so that level that again back to the homeostasis, I'm more comfortable. I feel confident that I can do it. So I don't feel that instability that I probably will fail at this at my presentation.
Huh. Wow. It's like it's so interesting how like you if you choose a topic or a concept to talk about and you really
Hmm.
talk about it, it's like actually I feel pretty difficult to talk about that concept because so many things are involved in that
Hmm.
that concept I feel is just kind of a way to look at this larger thing. 'Cause, like
Yeah, it definitely feels like there's an entire framework that kind of goes revolving around just this one single piece. That it webs out to we're talking again. We've mentioned self-esteem, self-confidence. We've talked about different like the chaos and order and stability and being comfortable in where you're at. And it's just all because of productivity.
yeah, or at least
Yeah,
today.
for the most part.
But yeah, I wanted to switch gears a little bit and
Right.
kind of get out of the textbook realm, out of the theory realm,
Yeah.
and talk about productivity in real life.
Mhm.
and we are in this thing called the quarantine. I think pretty much everybody is in it right now.
Yeah.
Um,
Familiar
so,
with it.
huh?
I'm familiar with it just a little bit, you know.
um, so in terms of productivity,
Mhm.
could you give us an idea of kind of maybe before the quarantine happened,
Mhm.
what productivity was to you and maybe what you were pushing for, and then if after it happened, or while it's happening right now,
Mhm.
if that's changed anything or created more of a struggle, or you've had to like switch gears or do anything different like that?
Mhm. I mean, I guess I guess I can take you through my routine real quick. So, I would usually wake up like at 4:30, go to the gym for like about an hour or two, you know, shower real quick, make some coffee, and then go to school or go to like my school site where I would, you know, do my practicum and, you know, shadowing. Do that in the morning if I wasn't working, depending on the day. And then afterwards, I have about like an hour or two, so I would just kind of do some homework real quick, study a little bit, and then head to class. And then afterwards, head home and just kind of do anything fun that I wanted to do. If unless you know my friends decided like they wanted to stay after school and go to the library to do more studying, then I would do that too. So that would usually be like what my day would consist of. So it's kind of like very routine. Like um, I had a set schedule of what I was going to be doing. I felt productive. I felt like I was doing something, and then I was working towards something. So now, I think for the first couple of weeks, I everything shifted gears. You know, gym started closing down, so I couldn't go to the gym anymore. Um, I wasn't working anymore because I work at a school district, and well, schools are shut down. Um, and now, you know, I'm all my classes switched to online, so now it's a lot harder for me to. I feel like everything now that everything's online, and it's another barrier for me to get over in order for me to feel productive while I'm in class.
What do you mean?
So that's well, it's I feel like you're a lot more. How do you explain it? Like you're applying more energy into being in an online class than if you were to be there physically.
I can see that. Like you have to focus more to be engaged,
Hmm.
because like
Yeah.
if you're there, you're in kind of this arena where you're expected to engage and people are watching you. The teacher might be watching you, so you might have this like Eye of Sauron kind of thing on you.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. And it's just like so everything kind of flipped on its head. And so now I think that's for the first couple of weeks, maybe like the first 3 weeks or so. And then I got to a point where I just kind of snapped at myself. I'm like, all right, what are you doing? Like, you know, this isn't what you should be doing right now. You're wasting your time. You're wasting, you know, you could be doing other things right now. So that's when I had to create a new routine for myself in order for me to feel somewhat productive, so like like I'm doing something for myself, and then kind of go based off that. So now, you know, I've kind of I already explained, you know, wake up in the morning, make some tea, read a book a little bit, and then do my homework. And then afterwards, I would go ahead and, you know, talk with my friends for a little bit, and maybe make plans to, like, you know, play like a match or two online or something. So like, you know, I'm still getting that social aspect. I'm still doing what I need to do academically, and I'm also doing something for myself.
Okay.
Yeah.
I definitely feel you on the gym closing.
Hmm.
Bruh, like the gym is so important. And I think sometimes people that don't have a gym activity maybe can't relate. Maybe they can, but like I feel like yeah, being in shape is cool and it helps you be healthy and lively and stuff like that.
Hmm.
Um, but I feel like a lot of times the gym, it's about like how you're saying, like the classroom is about the environment. The gym is
Hmm.
about the environment, and especially if you have people you know that you go with that push you and stuff, and it's good, it's positive. Like, because I rock climb and I climb with people, they push me to get better, and I climb
Hmm.
problems, I get to the top, I solve problems, I'm like, yes.
Hmm.
And it's like a huge, like almost daily confidence builder where it helps me stay in this mode where like I can do things, I'm strong, and it like
Hmm.
proves all these things to you at the same time by like lifting a heavy weight or by and like people are cheering me on. It's like I have friends. I'm reasonably popular because people want to hang out with me. I'm strong. I can accomplish things. I did something today. I have consistency, and it like all it checks all these boxes. Um,
Yeah.
and without that, I feel like I have to like kind of put the different check boxes in different places, and it's harder to kind of do all those things at once. And I feel like I wouldn't say my confidence is going down, but I feel less like bold maybe since I stopped doing that.
Okay. So like, so less of a validation then, I guess you would say. Like,
Um,
because before you had all these things that would kind of like reinforce whatever it is that you're doing. Not you don't have those reinforcers anymore. You don't have that validation from where it was that you were getting.
yeah, because I mean, I'm big on like self validation and do it for your own reason,
Mm-hmm.
but it's like there's a big difference between listening to the album and going to the live concert.
Right.
To where I don't think it's about validation, but it's about that feeling that you get from being there with the
Mm-hmm.
people and live. And I performed in public and I did it correctly, like as far as like lifting at the gym goes. And like there's something about performing good that I think may not be about validation, but it's more about like that Eminem song One Mic, where like I had this chance, I took it, and I got it.
Yeah.
So I maybe yeah, I would say I seek validation. I think that's something you really can't avoid. But
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't thinking in my mind that it was specifically about that.
Mm-hmm.
But
That's efficient.
yeah, Mr. Scott Life. Let's
Mm-hmm.
see. I found that productivity is connected to how much passion I have for what I'm trying to produce. It's easy to do the things that I love. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
so I think that falls back into what we were talking about at the beginning, where like you have these things and you have these goals, and sometimes you do one thing over the other thing, and both of them are productive. But why are you choosing this one over that one? And
Mm-hmm.
maybe one of them is like not necessarily one's more important than the other, but maybe you just
Mm-hmm.
like to do one, or like we were saying, like your homeostasis is more like in line with doing one thing rather than the other.
Mm-hmm.
So okay,
Yeah.
passion. What do you think about passion? Do you do anything passionately?
Uh, um, so I have a lot of like hobbies that I do, and things I start and then I pick up, like I pick them up, and then like after a while, like all right, I'm done with this. I'll put it off to the side, and then eventually I'll be like, okay, let me do this again. So I have a lot of like I kind of rotate through a lot of like I cycle through it a lot of the things. So sometimes I'll play music. Sometimes I'll paint. Sometimes I'll go rock climbing. And I have like my seasons of like as you can say passion, things I
Mm-hmm.
like doing during certain areas of the year, and I'd much rather do those things than I would anything else. And or sometimes I kind of put these barriers in front of that passion for me to be productive. So I'm like, all right, I have this big trip planned with my friends on this day. What do I need to do in order for me to enjoy my trip that day? Or like I need to finish this project before I go on this trip, because if I don't, I'm gonna be in the back of my mind. I'm gonna know of all these things that I have to do, and I'm not gonna enjoy myself while I'm at that trip. Or same thing goes like if I want to create a painting. I have to do all these things before I do my painting, because I'm not gonna be in the right mindset for me to fully apply myself to that passion.
Yeah. And speaking of
Yeah.
painting, yeah, I don't know if you guys see in the background, but
Okay.
Victor painted that because he is a
Yeah.
good painter. He's way better painter than I am.
Thank you.
But
Yeah.
I think he was saying that like because he's like in quarantine land, it's given him like chance to rotate through different things, and one of them has been
Yeah.
painting. So, dude, kudos
Yeah.
to you for pulling that out.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, it was a challenge for sure. And honestly, like I think that's why I did the painting, is because I felt like I needed to push my boundaries, and kind of really challenge myself and be like, and I had to really apply myself and think about it, because I had to go through like the blending so many different times because I couldn't get the right colors in,
Hmm.
and I felt like I had a lot of self doubt throughout the whole thing, but I just kept going through with it, and eventually I was like, all right, I feel like I'm getting somewhere. And sometimes it took me like moments where I had to kind of step back and be like, okay, what am I doing wrong, and how do I fix it? And then eventually I would kind of go through. And again, this is like again me having to apply myself to my fullest before I can feel like I'm really, creating anything with the passion that I have.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah, like productivity is a way at looking at what you're doing, but what you're doing is never, it is almost never straightforward. It's usually a process. And
Hmm.
I saw some comments from Alyssa and Fanya where
Oh,
they're
Lisa.
talking about like self-esteem, and I'm not really sure what efficacy is, but I know what validation is.
Hmm.
And what you were bringing up with the vacation, where you're like, okay, I have this goal to go on this vacation and enjoy my day, and I got to do all these other things. I feel
Hmm.
sometimes productivity is important, and this kind of goes into like the coping mechanism or the compulsive productivity in my mind, where
Hmm.
not being productive or not feeling productive, especially with goals that you know are important, if you actually have prioritized your goals,
Hmm.
it lowers your self-esteem and it makes you feel invalid and useless. And it kind of like how I was saying, like there's no cruise control. Like you're either going forward or you're like slowing down.
Hmm.
And it's almost like that Ricky Bobby saying in Talladega Nights, where it's like, if you ain't first, you're last. Where not
Yeah.
necessarily like you can't be second place or whatever, but that mentality where like you're headed one way or you're headed the other way. This is like there's a road that's straight, and you can head this way or that way at whatever speed
Hmm.
you want, but you can't like not achieve your goals and then still feel good. If you have goals, you set them up, especially if you set deadlines and you just blow through all your deadlines and you don't do anything, it like hurts your self-esteem. And it's like the opposite of what I was talking about with rock climbing, where you don't
Hmm.
feel all these things, you uncheck all of these boxes, and that can be
Hmm.
one of the reasons people are like so interested in kind of fine-tuning their productivity, because it like just
Hmm.
makes them feel better about their life.
Yeah, and we have what you call as natural consequences. Is like if you're not being productive, you're gonna feel crappy about yourself. Even in a job, if you're not being productive in your job, the natural consequence of that is that you're gonna get fired, and when you get fired, you're not gonna feel good about yourself. You know, and so we have to. It's these checks and balances that we have in our daily lives for us to feel like without the sense of productivity, we're not really, striving to. We're being productive in order to maintain something.
Yeah, and that's making me think like the different pressures that we face in terms of like, okay, so I have these goals. Like let's say I want to be in shape and I want to have my dream job and I want to get married and have 2 kids. Out of those 4 goals, I think
Hmm.
only one of them is a SMART goal. I forget what that acronym is, but it's like defined enough to where I can achieve it, which is have two
Hmm.
kids. Like I know when I've achieved that. Um,
Hmm.
but like land my dream job, it's like, okay, what does that mean? Get in shape. At what point will I be in shape? And
Hmm.
I'm bringing this out because sometimes the goals that we set and the pressures that we put on ourselves to be productive are from
Hmm.
outside places, even if we don't realize it. So sometimes there's like pressure to be pretty or something like that, or to make more money or something like that. And it may not be what we wanted, but we perceive it as a goal we need to achieve. And it can cause some self esteem issues and stuff because it's something we may not be passionate about, but we still feel like we have to be productive in it. Um,
Hmm.
and trying to kind of meter out the things I want to do and I want to accomplish, and then the responsibilities that I don't necessarily want, but I have, like maybe because I have kids, like I don't maybe necessarily want to drive them to practice all the time, but
Hmm.
I have to do that because I'm their father. Um,
Right.
and if I don't, then I feel like I'm not being productive in raising my kids, and maybe my self esteem goes down.
Hmm. Now, is that because being a father, that's your sense of purpose? You have to provide for others. Your purpose in life at that point is, be able to provide for your children, and so you're gonna do whatever it takes to fulfill that purpose.
I think you could look at it like that, and I think that's good to look at it like that. But
Hmm.
I don't think every
Hmm.
father does look at it like that. Um,
Right.
and there can be a feeling of I was forced to do this against my will. I would not be doing this if I didn't have to,
Hmm.
but I feel obligated, like responsibilities. I
Hmm.
feel are typically, because when you have goals and you push forward, I think that's like you taking initiative and you doing something because you want to. But
Right.
responsibility, like if you break that word apart, it's like the ability to respond. And that means like you're
Mm-hmm.
reacting,
Mm-hmm.
or it's your ability to react. And so it's normally something is happening and then you're responding to it. Um,
Right.
and I'm not always sure if that's something we want to be doing. Um,
Mm-hmm.
Not necessarily we shouldn't be doing, but like right now, the medical workers that are out risking their lives, um, I feel like they have a strong sense of duty and they're doing the best they can and they're trying to work with what they have. But I don't think they necessarily want to be in a hospital with a lack of protective gear, surrounded by infectious people that can produce airborne viruses. I don't know if they
Mm-hmm.
want that, but they might be pushed by responsibility or duty, or they might want to help people or do their part. But I don't know. When you start talking about like exactly what is the goal and what are your motivations for it, I think there's the play of the outside forces, your agreements, and then your desires.
Mm-hmm.
So
I think for the most part, a lot of it does stem off of prioritizing a lot of different things, a lot of different variables in your life. Again, going back to the whole like, you know, um, having children, being a father. What are the different roles in your life that you're a father, you're you're a son, you have someone that you take care of, you have a spouse or whatever. So you have different roles that need to be filled, different things in your life. You have a sense of purpose for each and every role.
mm-hmm.
Um, but now it's like, which one are you going to prioritize? You're also a friend. How often do you see your friends versus you spend time with your family? It varies on person to person, but again, that goes based off the prioritizing what's important to you, what's gonna make you feel like you're doing what you should be doing. So I guess okay, I think now we're kind of leaning to like responsibility versus productivity.
Well, I think you can be productive in fulfilling your
Mm-hmm.
responsibilities. It can give you a sense of purpose, and
Uh,
it can do all the things that productivity would give you. So I'd say it's effectively the same thing. It can be.
But yeah, but that's assuming that your productivity aligns with your responsibility for passion, or your passion about your responsibility.
I disagree with that
Okay.
because I think if you take pride in something, you
Hmm.
may not need passion.
Okay.
So I may not be like gung ho about um, having tea parties with my
Hmm.
daughter, but
Hmm.
I take pride in being a good father. So I'm going to do this and I'm going to fulfill my responsibility and I'm going to go through all these tea parties that I don't like because I'm a
Hmm.
good father and I take pride in that. And then that's me not necessarily being passionate about what I'm doing, but
Right.
feeling like I'm contributing in a positive way and building this person up to the future.
Right. So you're looking at the bigger picture rather than that one job that you have at that moment.
Yeah, I think passion is very in the moment.
Hmm. Okay.
And productivity doesn't always have to be for the moment. Like there's plenty of
Hmm.
people who are working on stuff for years and years and years. Like there's that dude that was like planting trees his whole life and he like replanted a whole forest.
Oh yeah.
Um, I would guess. I mean, you could say he was passionate, but I would bet every day he wasn't passionate the same amount for that entire period of time.
Hmm.
So yeah, I think emotions can have a lot to do with why you're doing something and if you feel like what you're doing is important or not. Because there's a lot of times where, because I have certain emotions, there's something that I normally feel might be good to do or that I might normally enjoy that I feel is productive that I like really don't want to do because I'm emotional right now. Or the opposite, where something that I would never do that I think is not that productive, all of a sudden I become emotional and I'm like, now I really want to do this and I think it's worth it, even though like the normal non-emotional me would be like, don't do that. Um,
Yeah.
But I think passion is kind of plays into that. Pride, I think, is. I would actually say I didn't think of this ever before. I don't think, but pride might be kind
Hmm.
of like long-term passion. It's like
Okay.
the homeostasis point of passion.
Where you can feel like where you've gotten to this point in you can you know, being consistent with your passion, that you're seeing the end results of it, and you feel like I'm very proud of that. You know what I did. You know what I ended up doing ended up making me feel good. It was successful, and because of it, it's validating everything that I did, and because of it, I feel pride.
Yeah, because I
Mm-hmm.
think uh, pride doesn't really happen until you have experience. Like
Mm-hmm.
you can't have. I feel like you can't have pride in something until you've done something or gone through something, and now it's like, okay, now I have pride in my kids, but that's
Mm-hmm.
because I have kids, and
Mm-hmm.
it's a process to obtain kids,
It's a it's the journey
and pride. I
that
think
makes, yeah.
so. Huh. Okay. I think we're kind of getting towards the end of this, Victor, and I
Yeah.
wanted to thank you for having this talk with me. But
Yeah.
before we ended, I did want to. I guess some people are still watching. That's great.
Yeah.
Hey, Quayle. But I wanted to ask you if, especially in these times, with the situation for a lot of people changing, um, and
Mm-hmm.
being more restricted. They can't do all the things that they normally do to blow off steam or feel
Mm-hmm.
confident enough to be productive at their regular level and stuff, like go to the gym and things like that.
Right.
Um,
Right.
do you think there's anything that you do in particular or that you've noticed that you've had to make an effort to change in order to stay productive, especially like kind of the small things you do to like ratchet up
Mm-hmm.
your momentum and productivity?
Yeah. I think at the end of the day, it kind of falls under, like, again, creating those short term goals. What I ended up doing was that, like, I need to start, you know, doing setting a routine in the morning. That kind of, again, we talked about, you know, like it kind of starts, gets that momentum going, first gear, second gear, third gear. And so really setting yourself that foundation of what is that I want to accomplish within the day, and then going with it, and then knocking one thing after the other, and without losing that momentum, like, you know, that's how I've been doing it so far. And I've been seeing results. I've been seeing a lot of productivity in myself, and I'm definitely sticking with it.
Okay. So kind of
Oh,
like,
and it helps to have and then it helps to have an accountability partner,
boom.
someone that keeps you like, hey, have you finished this? Are you working on this? You know, things like that.
And note on accountability partners, because I've found sometimes it's very difficult to find an accountability partner that actually works.
Hmm.
Because I think um, it can't just be anybody. Like with a
Hmm.
sponsor for AA, normally like you don't get a sponsor that didn't go through AA. Like it's a
Hmm.
particular type of person, somebody that went through the program. And if
Hmm.
I want an accountability partner, um, I have to perceive them as productive in
Right.
things, or I have experience in what I'm trying to produce. And so if you're gonna pick an accountability partner, don't just pick someone you like that's gonna tell you yes. Don't just pick somebody that's gonna like be on you all the time. Like they have to have some
Hmm.
type of. I feel it's better if they have some type of involvement in what you're trying to do. And if that's
Hmm.
true, then if they like care more, they can see the little nuances of you trying to slack off and not show that you're slacking off. Um,
Yeah.
you get to watch them, and then you'd be like, "Why are you telling me to do this when you didn't do this?" And they're like, "Oh, true. Okay, okay, I'll do that." Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
so I think that's a little bit of a kind of my 2 cents on that. But okay,
Yeah.
little baby steps. I'm definitely with the like um, do little things in order to kind of build up your momentum, especially
Hmm.
consistent things. It may be the
Hmm.
smallest thing, like making tea in the morning. I get up and I make tea. I get up and I make tea. I get up and I make tea. That is something that seems mundane and it may seem useless, but having something that you always do is kind of like a meditative practice sometimes, or a
Hmm.
grounding practice, and it can really help to set you up and get you in the motion, because sometimes there's certain things I do right before I'm productive.
Right.
And I try not to do those things unless I'm about to be productive. because then like my body goes like, oh, he's drinking coffee, he's about to like get it. And like
Yeah.
if I drink coffee and I don't do anything, my body's like, why aren't you doing anything? Go do something. Because like I did the routine, I did the ritual, and now it's time to go. So
Yeah.
the drink.
You're at that point. Yeah. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Go.
I was gonna say like at that, yeah, like at that point, you're with your real morning routine, you're setting yourself up for success for the rest of the day. You're providing yourself with enough order in your life to deal with the chaos that's ahead for the rest of the day.
Yeah, you're like pre-packing your order in case chaos comes. You're buffering yourself.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
you brought up a really interesting phrase, which I use in rock climbing, and I don't know if I made it up or not, but I call this thing setting for success. Or in rock climbing, you climb problems, right? And you're like, climb, do this, and there's like certain
Yeah.
techniques, certain very specific moves that you can use to climb a problem. And one of the things that I tell people sometimes when they ask me why I did something, when you're climbing a problem, most of the time I would feel every move is not going to feel good if you do it in the way that gets you to the top. And there's some moves that feel really good, but now that you did this move, you're in this position and it's really hard to move out of this position. And the correct move, or the move that helps you get to the top more, is way uncomfortable, but it sets you up for success. And so I use this term set for success, where sometimes I do something that I purposely do not want to do, or that's purposely uncomfortable, because I know by doing that, the next step will be either possible or much easier. And
Right.
that I think that plays into the routine thing too. So
Yeah, and I think that kind of you can apply it to a lot of different things. You know, it's like maybe you've been lifting 30 pounds your whole life, so by the time you see a 5 pounder, it's a lot easier for you. Because you've already set yourself up to be able to have this level of resistance to whatever it is that you're going to do in your life.
Yeah, like when I used to commute by bike, I used to on the weekends ride like 100 miles or ride up Mount Baldy. I don't know if you guys know where that is. It's in Southern California. Because my commute was like, I don't know, like a 5-minute commute for like 7 miles or something like that. But I didn't want to show up sweaty. And so I knew that if I was way more in shape than my 5-minute commute, then I could do it no problem and I wouldn't have to take a shower. And so it's, yeah, I think the setting up for success, you can do the buffering thing. You can do something uncomfortable. There's a lot of different ways to handle it, but it's an interesting concept.
Right.
So this is kind of the end of it. And Victor, this is a good conversation. I don't want to cut it off, but
No, it's fine. Yeah.
I don't want to be getting to the point where we're just rambling.
Yeah.
So thank you to everybody that's watching. This has been Reality Chat on Instagram Live as a part of PACT, the philosophy and critical thinking project that I'm doing. And this talk was about productivity. So thank you, Victor, for joining. I'm very, very grateful that you came to talk. This is going to be happening every week. If you guys have ideas for talks, I think Grant is online right now. I'm going to be talking to him pretty soon about something. I don't want to give it away. But if you want to check out what's going on, you can head out to my website, which is in my bio on Instagram. I was going to say .com, but I don't think it's an app. But it's jordantremaine.com, and we have events to try and keep people engaged and have them thinking. This is one of the events. Later this week, I'm having a workshop on the idea of beauty, and we're going to kind of have this type of talk, but about beauty. And then this weekend, we're having a community discussion that's kind of about being resilient and surviving through coronavirus and coming together as people. So if you're interested in that, head to my website, jordantremaine.com, or go to my IG bio, and the link is there to my website that has all my stuff on it. And this Friday, I'm also releasing a new podcast, which I think has a lot to do with what we talked today, if you're interested in that. So that's also on my website. But thank you, Victor. This has been Reality Chat. I'll see you guys next week. Deuces.
Bye, guys.